Thanks for clicking on this video. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon and turn on all notifications to keep up to date with the latest information and discussions. Finally, does the Jolly Green Giant deserve the moniker of legendary, and not just because his hair is kinda green? Hey guys, MasakoX here. Wow, who would have thought it, that the Broly hype after all this time is finally beginning to die down, and we're now getting closer to the English home release. 2 months ago, the movie hit cinemas worldwide and has not stopped since, with more and more countries getting the actual movie in their local cinemas as well, with Portugal in particular getting theirs in March. I can't believe all of the legendary connections that all of the Portuguese dub videos that I've done has actually managed to get. Forgive me for my constant talking about this movie. Haverock and I are just so excited about this movie and what is brought to the table. There's been just so much to try and ascertain and analyze, and being able to deep dive into what you can actually bring back to the surface. I mean, let's be honest, we all knew that once this movie would drop, loads of us creators would be able to try and piece together what we could figure out from this movie and what this could mean for the future of Dragon Ball. I mean, of course, as well as understand what it could mean for the current state of Dragon Ball and what it could mean for a certain series that may come back in the summer. I think we know it's coming. We are almost at an end of our big Broly discussions, so last but not least, it's time to talk about the Jolly Green Giant himself, Broly. We've talked about the movie itself, we've talked about the Saiyans, we've talked about Frieza, we've now talked about Chile and Lemo and their relationship with Broly, but what about Broly, the man himself? We have been waiting for this moment to really go down deep with this lovable guy. What makes him work as a character now? What makes him so much less polarizing than the original one? So let's find out, and for one last time, at least for now, spoiler warnings are ahead, fair traveler. We are generally oversimplifying the whole idea about this current Broly works and the old one didn't. In essence, the two Broly characters are completely different entities who just so happen to share the same basic plot and the same name. Other than that, they make their own embellishments, their own quirks, and their own personas. In fact, the old version's infamy actually worked to its advantage. You could actually argue that without the old Broly, the whole concept of Broly itself would be nowhere near as influential in the box office especially. If you didn't have the original Broly as some kind of influence, if you made the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, the new Broly, on his own, without the original or without the history, would it have been as successful? Stew on that one. With the old Broly, even before the new movie was announced, people were still talking about Broly. The infamy was strong with this one. Haverock and I ourselves were talking about Broly for the longest time. He actually symbolizes the series for many people and many fans across the world, and it's generally become a stereotype with what people assume what Dragon Ball is. And I do not want to take away the fact that if people find joy in what Broly does and tanking loads of the other characters, that is perfectly okay. And all the power to you, because if it makes you happy, that's the main thing. Now, without sounding like a broken record, you still cannot ignore the fact that the original motive for Broly was a little bit... what's the best word? Confusing? Yes, we can be somewhat sympathetic to the original Broly. He did have the tragic backstory after all. It just felt the way of the execution was just not as good as it could have been. And we've been talking about that constantly. I would like to think that this new Broly has not been motivated by a crying infant that cried for 3 hours or something. The way that you can actually justify the crying is something that it could just be, it's a cue. It's an association of negative emotions. What causes the flare-up in the original Broly is the name, or at least the sound, Kakarot, because remember, babies cannot understand names, they would understand the sound Kakarot. That sound led to his world being turned upside down and just bad things to happen. Everything bad that happened to Broly came from that sound, and that sound triggers something deep down, unbeknownst to Broly, that sets him off. That sound led to him and his father having to fend for themselves out in the wilderness for decades, not having anywhere to call home. All of this disruption, all of this conflict, and all of the turmoil inside Broly's mind came from one thing. But then again, I don't think that that was the intention of the creators at the time. This This is an old school Dragon Ball movie after all. All you need with a villain is a reason to get buff and a reason to not like Goku, and you're pretty much off to the races. That's all you need for a motive for a big bad for the movie. What was insanely interesting and entertaining though, I mean, at least in the first movie and some of the second movie, I will admit, now that I've finally seen it, was to see Broly toss around your favorite heroes and characters who are already strong in their own right, like they were rag dolls. Being able to toss around these heroes in a way that not many other villains got to do. This wasn't your typical calculated tussle between two fighting entities, trying to slip across one another, trying to get the advantage, strategy, tactics. No, this was just whomp, whomp, whomp. This was like putting up a scalpel against a mallet. Mallets are inherently more entertaining. Sadly, in the first movie, Broly was not given really any chance to explain why he was the way he was, and why he does not like Kakarot, in his own words. If we had just the slightest hint of a retrospective, and Broly to actually give his side of the story to proceedings, and talking to Kakarot, and justifying why he feels towards Kakarot the way he does, we might be able to get some kind of an insight and therefore more sympathy as to why Broly is legendary, if you know what I mean. We might have been able to see the writing staff save this tenuous narrative hook of a crying baby, trying to be able to give some kind of life and justification from the character himself. But alas, we did not get that. Not at all. In not that much time at all, Broly descended into hysteria, uttering only one single word, and I think you know what that word is, leaving no trace of nuance behind and only leaving muscle in its stead. Which we must admit isn't all that bad for a fighting sequence, because that's what Dragon Ball is. It's about the fighting, so why not have it? But at the same time, I think it's good to have some kind of subtlety and plot behind the fighting, you know, to kind of just give it a reason why the fighting is taking place in the first place. Now don't get us wrong, this new Broly isn't that much of a talker either, but at the same time, I feel like the reason why this Broly is still mute actually has a good reason behind it. Let's face it, on planet Vampa, who else did he have to talk to other than his dad? Nobody else was around who could speak English, so therefore, what was the point? You just need to learn basic words and acknowledgements and being able to actually, you know, explain what you need and want and are thinking. However, when the new Broly does talk, it always serves a purpose. And that purpose is to build his personality into something that we all as an audience can get behind, and make us realize something pretty quickly and very early on into his interactions with Chilai and Lemo. Unlike the original, this modern Broly is pure. When it comes down to it, he's not all that fond of fighting. And although him being a Saiyan, fighting is second nature and it is something that his body does crave to do, it's not for the same reasons that we are used to. I get the feeling that this new Broly would find fighting as something good, like a sport, or something like for sparring, betterment, self-improvement, for fun, rather than just a way of getting vengeance or just for the sake of fighting. Put simply, this Broly was just simply a tool for Paragus. The old Broly-Paragus dynamic was just basically two dudes going around space trying to survive. It was just father and son, and that was it. The father trying to do his best interest to try and contain his son, and not really trying to be aggressive or mean or spiteful or anything like that. He just wanted his son to survive. Yeah, sure, he wanted to get vengeance on the Saiyan race and all of that, but his son came first. This new Paragus is really interesting because that's not the case at all. It's all about him, and his Broly is just a conduit for that. And therefore, we get more sympathy towards Broly. So you see, it feels like there is a bad guy element here in Paragus and why we should like Broly. I get the feeling that unlike the original Broly, if you let this new Broly just roam free to his own devices, he wouldn't really go berserk at all. He wouldn't get angry. He'd be free. He'd be able to do what he wants. He'd be relaxed. He'd be content. He'd be happy. I think the only reason Broly would go berserk in the first place is because he had a really rubbish life on Vampa. He got angry, he got aggressive, he couldn't control things, and as he would mature, he'd be able to get a good handle on it. And what's also brilliant about this new character dynamic is the fact that we can easily, therefore, what I just talked about, root for the guy. Care about Broly's future and destiny. We don't want him to go away. He is a bigger focus than Goku and Vegeta in a Dragon Ball movie. Who would have thought that would ever happen? Usually, the movies are about Goku, Vegeta and the gang bettering a bad guy. It's about the good guys. This time, it's about another guy, Broly. It's about Broly, Chilai and Lemo being able to rediscover themselves and reinvent themselves. That's what it's about. Rebirth. And that, quite honestly, is really, really refreshing. And that whole nature of rooting for Broly goes so deep into the narrative, it goes into the soundtrack as well. We are used to, in Dragon Ball, the tension being derived from our Saiyan heroes fighting against a big bad and whether the planet will be okay. And yeah, in the movies, we know things are going to be okay because it's not really relating to the main timeline. But okay, let's go back to Dragon Ball Z, when Frieza was around. The tension and the stakes are incredibly high here because Frieza was a big ne'er-do-well. Nowadays though, the stakes are really not that big because, you know, we got the end of Z. We know things are going to be okay. We just need to wait until we get there. In the Broly movie though, that's not at the forefront. The main source of tension in this movie is about whether Broly's going to be okay. Because you realize quite close towards the end that, oh no, I know where this is going. Is Broly about to be offed? Gogeta was pretty much ready to vaporize poor old Broly, thinking he was just an unstoppable monster like the old one. No, he fell out of it. And you could see when Broly's pupils came back, he was scared. He was terrified. Broly can get scared. And that, therefore, adds more empathy. If a character can actually show fear, that makes them relatable. In fact, this is a quick little side note. Chile actually got 2 wishes. She wished for Broly to be saved and for him to be transported back to his home planet. So anyone thinking that it was just one wish, including myself originally at the time, that might be why. So thanks to the people of Twitter out there that pointed that out to me. Thank you! Gogeta thought that Broly's biggest wish was just to go berserk. He had no motive other than just to destroy. But we know that what Broly's biggest wish would be to get his friend Bar back. That's all that Broly wants, I think. He doesn't want to destroy the world. Or South Galaxy. I think you're in the clear there, South Kai. Still though, Broly is still insanely powerful, and I think after the whole Tournament of Power thing, we could say that he might be a bit too powerful. Let's be honest, if a new rival comes along that isn't a Godbuster, then it's not really worth Goku's time. But in Haverock and I's opinion, we feel like the ingratiation of Broly to the main series has actually been executed pretty well, showcasing him from the very start as a certain type of chosen one. This chosen one can adapt to an enemy's power. He is not inherently strong, not from the outset, but he does have an enhanced capability that all Saiyans have, something that we've seen Vegeta and Goku exhibit all the time. And that is the ability to adapt and learn to new events and surroundings and techniques very quickly. The movie also allows Broly to take some hits from the big guys before he can actually fully showcase his power. He is not powerful instantly out of the gate like we do see in the original movie. He's just powerful right from the get-go, and that makes you just think, wait, what? Where has he been? No, this new Broly started off as someone who was quite powerful, you know, someone worthy of taking on Vegeta, but he just needed to get going. This therefore lends credence to the fact that Broly is the pinnacle of Saiyan potential. That explanation does not only really showcase his remarkable adaptability powers, it also makes him a realistic character. He's a Saiyan that could have easily just existed. Someone who was still quite powerful, but someone who just needed to actually been shown the ropes, and therefore actually unlock something within. And also think about it, if Broly was as strong as a Godbuster right now, wouldn't you think that the Kais would have said something before now, or they would have done something in their own volition? Oh, who am I kidding? The Kais, they don't do stuff on their own volition. Sorry about that, I don't know what I was thinking. And yet we actually saw he has his limits, which the old Broly did not really have, which led to incredulity and therefore derision from quite a lot of people in the Dragon Ball fandom towards Broly. So therefore it makes Broly someone who can actually improve and therefore has a reason to keep around. And speaking of keeping around, Broly's relationship towards his friends is somewhat precious as well. It's really interesting at first glance, but the devil is always in the details. While they both don't speak much, they can both reach tremendous levels of power. Mostly because Toriyama allowed this new Broly to have friends and have feelings and generally be a realistic human being, humanoid character Saiyan type person. Toriyama decided not to go down the route that Takao Koyama did with Broly just to making him an unstoppable machine. Who would have thought that in the year 2019 that we'd be able to associate the words cute, adorable, lovable, and puppy to Broly? Once again, I think we need to give Toriyama all the credit for this. He can create something new, and therefore change one of the most polarizing characters in Dragon Ball, nay, in most narratives out there, and make them become something greater and something that we can really get behind as someone who's a major character and a reinvention of the innocent Saiyan model that we got with Goku. In the end though, the only thing that you really need to make a good character is to give them something that makes them worth investing in. And that is the main thing that we can take away from all of this. Broly, you truly are a legend. So what do you guys think? Do you think this new Broly is better than the old Broly, or vice versa? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next one, be sure to like and subscribe. Catch you later!